Hi. Is your team taking too long to finish sprint planning, or are the team's estimate inaccurate, resulting in stories spilling out of the sprints? Or as product owners, you're unclear on what could be the next functional increment and having trouble prioritizing things? All these are symptoms of very little or inefficient backlog refinement. Backlog refinement often does not get its due attention in a fast-paced development environment. Though there are a lot of resources online and on internet available about what it is, it bugs me a lot that there isn't even little information about how to do it efficiently. So just a little theory first. As you all know, backlog refinement has to do with discussing stories that are likely to come in the near future sprints. About 2 to 4 hours per week is a very good time box for backlog refinement. And this process requires a very good coordination between product owners and the team. The idea is by the time the first day of the sprint arrives, the team has all these stories in a ready state, okay, which helps them do a very quick, efficient, and confident sprint planning using techniques like plan poker and all. Now, all that sounds very simple and straightforward, but how do we get those stories in the ready state? Okay, that's the magic. So here's a technique that I'm going to illustrate. Step number 1 is what I'm calling as summarizing the stories. Product owner, you have to write a good bunch of stories in a prioritized fashion with just the summary in there. The trick here is the stories have only the description, okay, using the standard format, which is as a type of user, I want to do some function so that there's some benefit. Nothing less, nothing more at this time. Yes, product owners, you have to resist the temptation of writing the acceptance criteria. If the story has a UI, it'll be great to attach the mockup, the UI mockup to the story. Now, how we arrive at the UI, that has to do with the whole UX engineering exercise, which is a different procedure altogether. We can talk about that later on. Step number 2 is meat. The stories now have to be discussed between the product owners and the engineering team combined. The trick here is to pick the story and have a very rich and open conversation about them. Using invest as your guiding principle, it will help you to have a very good and productive discussion. It is not unusual that a story may break itself into 2 or more stories. In fact, that is a good indication that the conversation is very fruitful. Number 3 has to do with the writing of acceptance criteria. Product owners, you do not have to write the refinement, you don't have to write this acceptance criteria in the refinement meeting itself, but do it soon thereafter, because the outcome of the conversation is going to be very fresh in your mind. Given when then format is highly recommended. It's called the Gherkin format, or also the BDD format. It helps you write the acceptance criteria in a template form, in a short version. Again, I would like to emphasize again to the product owners, do not write this acceptance criteria before you've had the conversation. Finally, step number 4 has to do with sizing. So engineers, it's time for you to put the story points on the story now. Please note, we are not playing planning poker at this time. It could be just a pair of engineers putting a story point swag on these stories. Hopefully you're using Fibonacci, which goes as 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 for the story points. And if you've been listening to my videos, I have always said anything more than 8, like 13, is too big. If you find a story where the size is coming out to be 13, you probably want to go back to the second step and have a conversation with the product owner and the team on how you can split the story. Trust me, you can break even an 8-pointer. So there you have it. Simple 4 steps, and your stories are in this ready state. This concept is also called definition of ready. All this contributes to the health of your backlog. If you're working on a serious complex product, it is highly recommended that you get the stories ready for the next 3 to 4 sprints in your backlog. Okay. In the process of attaining this health, you will also effectively manage your risk and avoid any surprises. So thank you for listening, and hopefully you will have a lot of fun getting your backlog healthy by following this refinement technique.